So we're back again talking with Dr. Hisham, and this time we are talking about photobiomodulation. I can't even say, get it all out in one word, photobiomodulation. And why we're talking about that is because Dr. Hisham is the founder of Laser Life Care Institute, which is a high-tech dental institute and a bioenergetics laser and light therapy spa for human enhancement, anti-aging, and mitochondrial disease prevention. Anybody who's heard me talk about my makeup brand and what gets me going when I'm searching for ingredients and functions of my products is mitochondrial function and getting the cells to activate and turn over and act as best they possibly can. From my point of view, for good skin health for good skin health, really. Pro-aging, we like to call it, not anti-aging, because we're not trying to get younger, but we're trying to move with ourselves and be the best possible versions of ourselves we can be in any given moment. So as we age, getting our body and our skin to move with us. It doesn't have to start degenerating as much as we are told that it's supposed to degenerate at a certain rate. It actually doesn't need to. If we treat it well, we're not trying to turn back the clock, we're trying to move proactively with the clock. And so I wanted to talk to Dr. Hisham today about laser light therapy and how it is beneficial not only to the skin, but to the entire body, and how it helps us in our holistic pro-aging. So thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you, Emma.
I've got personal experience with Dr. Hisham's spa and his light therapy machine device. What would you call it? It's
Not a pod, because that's what it is.
A pod.
Of course, it is a machine. It is a device, but it's actually a pod.
So it to me, it reminds me of a sunbed from the old days. You know, 80s and 90s sunbeds were all a thing.
You ran back then, Emma. Oh my God.
I do go way back. Our family business, we had sunbed machines, and so it was kind of a free-for-all for us. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I really enjoyed. I used to enjoy just the relaxation and the feeling of it, as opposed to I wasn't doing it for the tanning sake, but just the feeling of relaxation. And that is what the NovaThor, your pod machine, reminds me of, and but better, because I spend 20 minutes on there and I get off and I just feel good. It's indescribable. It's not something you can pinpoint going, oh, my skin feels tanned, or it's everything just feels better, more enhanced, more
activated.
Right. Yeah, just better. So I would love to talk to you about maybe see if you can describe what it's doing, why it's important for the body, and then some differences in different light therapies.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for sharing your personal experience and for helping me share this message with the world actually as well. I would like to just finish before we get into your the last part of your introduction now, which is the actual questions, like what is it, what is photobiomodulation, what is it good for, who is it good for, and then more specifically, why is the NovaThor as a device better at this photobiomodulation than others. And we will do all these things. I would just like to tag on to what you mentioned first, which is we don't have to age, as in we don't have to age badly. The word that triggered me was positively triggered me was we don't have to degenerate. You said the word degeneration. I was like, that's exactly it. So if I may just tag on to that and comment on that briefly, because this is exactly why we're doing this whole thing in the first place. It's not, I can talk about the science all day. So what is it for? What's the point? What's the intent? That's the most important part. So degeneration is not a predetermined act of existence, basically. It's what stagnates, disintegrates. So is degeneration a so-called natural and necessary process of what we call aging? Well, not really, not necessarily. Aging is natural because we pass through that period of time and we accumulate activities that are either working in our favor or attacking us from internally, externally, stress, everything else that's going on in our lives that affect the way our bodies continuously regenerate, because they're programmed to regenerate all the time until there's a moment in time where that might be pre-programmed that we're supposed to die at some stage, and that's fine. But until we die, we don't have to live badly. We don't have to live miserably. Instead of going through time degenerating, we can go through time regenerating and activating that natural innate process within us to keep on regenerating.
Natural and innate, that is key. Yes. It is natural and it is innate. And yes. It is how we assist that process throughout our lives to yes. guide it in the right direction, as opposed to the direction we're told that just happens because you're getting older.
Absolutely. Because everything is about a flow of energy. Everything is, it's not, that sentence, everything's energy, is not technically correct. Everything is the flow of energy. That is what's correct. Unless energy flows and transacts and transforms, there is nothing. Otherwise, just, okay, like dark matter. Well, that's energy, but what does it mean? What does it do? What can we do with it? Nothing. It's nothing. It is energy, but that's it. But what is really life? It's the transformation of energy. It's the movement of energy. So we can guide that in the right direction, or we can just let it go in the other direction, and so-called degeneration is still flowing, but it's flowing in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. And energy is very important here because we're talking about an energetic device. We're talking about light. We're not talking about chemicals, which have energy, of course, and everything else, but because they are energy. But this is pure energy here with photobiomodulation. It's light, that's biology, modulation. As I said before in the other video, and I'll repeat it again, health is about the state of, it's our ability to heal and regenerate, but what is it actually? What do we do about it? It's accentuating our ability to balance back, our balancing activity with awareness and modulation. So balancing is enhancing our awareness and enhancing our modulating, the practice of modulating things up and down to allow our bodies to be able to adapt and balance back all the time. And there's nothing more direct than light that can do this. So with this subject called photobiomodulation, as we just defined it, and it's the photobiomodulation is the scientific term that we've come to collectively agree upon over the last 5 or 10 years only. Before that, it was called just purely, and it's still being named that, but not the proper scientific term, light therapy, low-level laser therapy, red light therapy, and all these things. So it has many names, and that's fine. Usually they relate to what device was used to do it. But then as these devices and things evolved, and as the science evolved, because it's 40, 50-year-old science now, and thousands of published articles and hundreds of thousands of experiences with humans and animals as well, of course, and even cells on petri dishes. It works on all living matter, basically. So the current term is photobiomodulation, which can be done, like I said, with lasers, just turned down with certain lasers and certain wavelengths. We'll come to talk about the wavelengths in a second. Or now with LEDs, because LEDs are not specifically lasers, but they can be, they share characteristics of lasers in terms of being monochromatic, one single color. And then one single wavelength. A color is a wavelength, basically. So red has a wavelength, well, red is a wavelength range from about 600 to 700 nanometers. So 650 nanometers wavelength of light is always going to be red to us, our human eyes.
Right.
And with light that we cannot see with our human eyes, but yet we can perceive with our bodies, with our other senses, because we can actually perceive all light wavelengths in different ways. Some affect us good, some affect us bad, like microwaves produce heat. Too much heat is bad because they get absorbed in the water, so we perceive them, we just don't see them, obviously. Although they do not cause cancer directly in terms of changing or ionizing DNA. While ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, which are shorter than visible light, those are called ionizing radiation. They go through the whole human body to the DNA and cause changes in the DNA therefore mutations, therefore cancer, and all these things. We call that ionizing radiation. So with photobiomodulation, to properly be able to manipulate the body's healing ability, and we're talking specifically about mitochondria, and I'll come to that in a minute. We're using very specific wavelengths that have been tried and tested and scientifically proven, and they come from nature. It's not like we invented them. We discovered the effect, then we accentuated, then we modulated it and moderated it, and then we researched with a proper dose and all these things. Then the devices got better because first we had only just light, then we had heat lamps, then we had lasers, then now we have diodes. Oh, okay. So our technology and our intelligence is evolving, but the core of it is that red light and near infrared light goes directly to mitochondria in every human cell and animal cell. It's not unique to humans at all, which are the powerhouses. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of every cell. They're the cell within the cell. They're the cell that actually keeps the cell alive and controls cell death, proper cell death, apoptosis, versus necrosis, which is this destruction by invasion or by bad radiation or bad bacteria or whatever. That's necrosis, that's death. Bad death. Apoptosis is controlled cell death. This cell has done its job. It's no good anymore. It's dysfunctional. It's called apoptosis. Let's get rid of it and replace it with something better from the other good cells around it. All that is controlled by mitochondria, including the oxidative balance. So we call it redox, reduction and oxidation in combination, that process of flow, of modulating, producing oxidative reaction species and then turning them off to fight pathogens. So we use oxidative reactions, reactive oxidative species like peroxide and reactive oxygen and nitric oxide and all these things to kill bacteria and kill viruses, and also to signal to other parts of the body and other parts of the cell about what's going on. Too much of that, and it doesn't get turned off, then we get disease where that oxidation is oxidizing the cell wall of the cell, and or even before that, the cell wall of the mitochondria, because the mitochondria is actually like a little cell. It's actually an old bacterial cell that went into another cell and then became symbiotically part of the same thing, and that's what technically created this ongoing thing we call life. Basically, it's one cell inside another cell. So when the cell walls get damaged within the mitochondria, or the mitochondrial wall, let's call it this way, or the cell wall gets damaged by that oxygen, the free radical oxygen and all that, then we get destruction and inflammation. So too much oxidation is not good, too little is not good either. It's as and when needed. The red light, and like I was saying, the wavelengths, the range is 650 nanometers, which is red, all the way to near infrared light, which is 810, 850, all the way up to 1,000 nanometers. That's infrared light. We cannot see that with our eyes, but our cells perceive it though. It doesn't even actually feel hot per se. Heat is produced by far infrared. So things like far infrared saunas, those produce heat. That's still infrared, but it's wavelengths of 3,000 nanometers up to 6,000 nanometers. That's far infrared. Still we can't see it, but we perceive it as heat. And beyond that, beyond 10,000 nanometers, we get to microwaves, which also produce heat. So, and heat is not bad. Producing warmth, producing sweating, releasing toxins, that's a good thing. But it's only external, basically, and very transient. We're talking about that small bandwidth of wavelengths of light, red and near infrared, 600, let's just say 600 to 1,000 nanometers, that range, that does not intentionally cause heat. It goes directly through the cells to the mitochondria to something called cytochrome C oxidase. It's an enzyme at the very last point of the respiratory chain. Don't want to go into too much detail here because we can spend a whole lot of time about that, but very simply put, we break down glucose outside of the mitochondria, inside the cell, inside the cell cytoplasm, basically, and only electrons, energy, basically. That's it's a quantum field flow. So sometimes electrons, sometimes it's I love quantum biology and quantum chemistry and everything else. So, let's say just an electron passes into the mitochondria that now has to be transported through 4 steps. in this chain that we call respiration to produce the ATP, the energy molecules, as well as other signaling molecules, including nitric oxide, which is very important for the blood flow and for our defense and for other signaling effects inside the body, to produce all these things inside the mitochondria. Given that that last step, cytochrome C, has to give up that last electron to oxygen, and if that doesn't happen, the electrons back up. Basically, there's the last messenger is not carrying the bag and running away with it. The bag's starts to backlog now, and that creates destruction and damage within the mitochondria, thereby the cell, thereby destruction within the whole system, basically. And that is the process of inflammation.
Okay.
There's a backlog of there's too many electrons that are just not ending up connecting to oxygen. So the oxygen now becomes a free radical. There's a lot of free radical production within, a lot of oxidation that is uncontrolled that's going within. Too many electrons. Hydrogen is staying outside the mitochondria. It can't come back inside because there's a proton pump pumping out hydrogen. So there's too much acidity. So it becomes a mess, basically, in terms of the pH, the potential, the electric potential, too much electrons.
One of our huge problems these days is that inflammation is rampant. Inflammation is caused by our environmental, our environment, the food we eat,
stress and everything else.
Yeah. Yep. So it is huge and rampant. So light therapy is one way that we can counter inflammation.
Absolutely. And what I just described now is the cellular mechanism of inflammation. So when you have chronic inflammation, it's not an infection, because inflammation can be as a reaction to inflammation or injury.
Yes, right.
Like, got punched, you fell, you broke your hand or whatever.
Necessary sometimes for healing.
Exactly. That's
but
it.
Too much inflammation is bad.
Which is the chronic inflammation that we talk about. And that's exactly what I just described now at the cellular level, or even subcellular at the mitochondrial level. So by fixing that, the whole thing starts to flow. When we talked about degeneration and regeneration earlier, this is a quotable quote from Dr. Hisham. What stagnates disintegrates, and what flows grows.
Right. Excellent.
So when this backlog of electrons and everything else stagnates there, all crap starts to happen. When you trigger that flow, when you open the channel and everything starts to flow properly, you start to regenerate, you start to grow instead of degenerate. So, and that's what red and infrared light therapy does. It goes to the mitochondria. Within the mitochondria, we have that cytochrome C that I was talking about. Cytochrome C it's called cytochrome, cell color. So it's something within the cell that has color, chroma. So cytochrome C has iron and copper in it. And those are colored pigments, obviously, just like hemoglobin has color in it from the iron. It's red. And they absorb that light. They have a high affinity to those wavelengths of light, and they activate. They just turn it on. It's like turning a switch on. Suddenly, all the oxygen starts to flow properly. All the electrons start to flow properly. The whole process of respiration, which is how we make energy, and without destruction, starts to flow. So too much oxygen is not good. We have to use it properly. And of course, too little oxygen is not good, but we have to use that oxygen properly. We have to produce the CO2. We have to produce the water from that combination properly in flow, while producing the ATP, the energy, and releasing nitric oxide from the mitochondria, where it's actually bad. If too much nitric oxide stays in the mitochondria, it competes with the oxygen. So it's actually slowing down our respiration.
So it's
produce
about
it, release it.
Making the entire metabolism of the skin, the cells function optimally.
That's it. Because when nitric oxide comes out of the mitochondria, the oxygen flow can work properly, and that's what the red light with the cytochrome does, basically. When it's outside the mitochondria, nitric oxide, it's vital for human health and human life. It is antiviral, nitric oxide. It is antibacterial, but also primarily the main function that, I forgot his name, the gentleman who won the Nobel Prize for discovering this on nitric oxide. Its main function is to expand and widen our blood vessels. It's called the endothelial nitric oxide, to expand them to get the blood flow going. Constriction of blood vessels in a sympathetic shock, for example, constricted blood vessels, stress, lack of blood flow,
stress,
brain, heart, whatever, everything goes bad. Chronic is bad. Nitric oxide dilates parasympathetic blood flow. That's why when you go into that light pod, one of the first things that you start to feel, you might feel warmth after 10 minutes, but initially it doesn't feel warm.
Yeah.
Initially it just feels like just relaxing because you're relaxed there, but suddenly you start to feel this beautiful euphoric feeling in your head because there's blood flow coming to the head from all around. So mitochondria are activated, blood flow is activated, proper metabolism of oxygen is activated, and modulation of that redox, that oxidative stress is going on. So it's turning it off if it's too much. It's turning it on moderately if it's totally off as well. So it's modulating our immune response, improving our blood flow, getting nutrients in and toxins out, basically, as well as activating each mitochondria to start to do its work properly. So who benefits from that? Like where can it be used? It's in everything, in every form of healing, every form of activation of new cell regeneration, enhancing, like we said, metabolism and flow and homeostasis. So generally, there's 3 categories of people who would benefit from using this all the time. One, if you have a disease or an injury, whether it's chronic or acute, and you're looking to help enhance your healing ability right now. And of course, we have a lot of, I've had them for 20 years now, the handheld devices. I use a lot of them inside the mouth, of course, but different parts of the body as well, for a wound, an injury in a certain place, or if it's a chronic pain somewhere, just apply it there. It helps a lot.
Where we can find these handheld devices? Because the full body one's amazing.
Yes.
Just accessibility, because I don't know if there are many around by your place.
In New Zealand, no. In New Zealand, there's 2. There's one in our clinic and one in Hamilton at Karen, our friend. But they're very rare in New Zealand and very rare in Australia. US a bit more, of course. Some people have them in their homes, but they are quite expensive. So like Tony Robbins has 3 of them across his homes. Tom Cruise has 9 of them across his homes, and then many other wealthy individuals and sports clubs in the UFC, the fighting. The stadium where they do the training in Las Vegas, they have one for all the athletes.
A bit of a DIY disclaimer here. We've made our own. Nowhere near the level of being in the pod, but
totally fine.
We have constructed one with 4 heat lamps, and I'm not 100% sure on the exact wavelength of those, because they are not red to look at. I believe they're near infrared, but they do produce a bit of heat. So I was thinking maybe they produce a bit of far infrared as well.
Yes, which is not toxic. Far infrared is not toxic or harmful. It's not a mitochondrial activation thing. It's purely heating up the water within your cells, especially on the skin, improving blood flow on the outside of the skin because of that heat, and inducing sweating, which is an infrared sauna, basically. That's exactly what infrared sauna is. It's not bad. It's actually good in different ways, but it's not as potent and deeply anti-inflammatory and deeply activating as
the red. So my intention is to add.
Let me check it out for you. If you can send me photos of the back of the bulbs or whatever, I can give you advice.
And,
but there's lots of panels. You can buy panels, you can buy bulbs, you can buy obviously professional devices that already have like handles and small and big and all these things. I can share with you.
Yeah.
That's it. At the end of this video, I can share a list with you of different companies that sell all these things. I don't sell them or make them. I teach on them, I use them, I help companies evolve their products and all these things, but I don't make them or sell them.
Great. Well, because I know a lot of our customers and audience will have experienced the light therapy at their beauty therapists with the machines that go on.
That's exactly one of those.
And they can be dialed to different. Sometimes it's a yellow light, sometimes it's an orange light, sometimes it's a red light. What's your take on those?
Okay, so it's all light therapy, obviously, because we're using different lights. However, those other wavelengths, red, blue, green, yellow, are not at all what I was just explaining before in terms of cellular mitochondria and all that stuff. They have benefits though. So they have other benefits, and that's why they're being used, and that's good. So blue and green light, very good for killing bad bacteria, basically. So for acne, for skin, for people with vitiligo and other skin conditions. So for skin, it's fantastic, but only external skin.
Yeah.
Even UV light can be used in moderation and with intention to treat a condition like that. But it's not something, especially blue light or UV light, even green light, you don't want to be exposed to that in high concentrations all the time.
Yeah.
That has many negative side effects now, especially for the eyes and all these things, even just blue screens and all that. Yellow and orange are in the middle of this whole visible wavelength, so they start to cross over, but again, it's for skin treatments. Nothing against that, to the contrary. Like I said, they have very, very specific uses, but they are specific, only when needed, done by somebody who knows what they're doing. But don't buy a yellow light and just keep it in your face, a blue light and just keep putting it in your face all the time. No, that's not for home use, or for regular ongoing use. Red and infrared, you can use it every single day of your life, and actually it's recommended that you do. So like I said before, if you have an injury or a wound or a specific condition, I'll talk about some of those, or to enhance your strength and muscle build, like for example, like we're saying about sports and athletes and UFC fighters and all athletes basically. So for the same amount of exercise that they do, with or without the red light therapy, this is tested multiple times all around the world, more muscle build, more resilience, more oxygen, more efficient oxygen consumption, faster recovery, less injuries, and everything else. So for athletes, for people who are very active, it is excellent because it reduces injuries, improves your resilience, and improves your whole strength basically for the same amount of exercise. Doesn't replace exercise, it accentuates it. And then of course the last category is, let's use your word, which is I loved, pro-aging and regenerating while we go through life. So you don't have a specific disease, because we're not trying to treat, like we said in our first video, we're not trying to treat disease by disease. Well, we've tried that, it's not working. We're trying to prevent all degenerative, the name is self-descriptive, degenerative diseases. That's the whole, the world's biggest problem is not COVID-19. The world's biggest problem, humanity's biggest problem, is degenerative diseases. It's been going on for decades.
Yes.
And the we're talking about flattening the curve and all that. That curve is going like this, and only like that. It's not even steadying up on the way up. It's going like this.
We'd love to see flattening the curve for.
Why didn't we talk about that back then?
That's right.
Cancers are becoming, all the old categories of risk categories are out of the window.
Yeah.
If you're obese, you get this. If you're all this, if you're a smoker, you get this. Bullshit. It's all gone now.
Yeah.
All that is gone. Cancer now, it's like he's 30 and she's on organic food and she's whatever, and cancer and cancer and cancer. He's whatever. Kids are getting diabetes, and in high numbers. Not like some kids. It's incidental. Diabetes in kids, cancer across all age groups, smokers, non-smokers, everybody. Alcohol drinking all causes liver cirrhosis, and alcohol is bad to drink. Absolutely, yes. But what we used to call this would happen only if you're a drinker, now it's like, shit, it's happening in everybody. It's like what is going on? So degenerative inflammation, the chronic dysfunction of the mitochondria, by signaling to the nucleus that what to do, bad stuff to do, because the nucleus is only, the DNA in the nucleus is reacting to what the mitochondria is telling it to do. That's what actually causes cancer. That's what causes mutations. This is a whole different subject, and you can look at that. So when do you start to treat cancer? When do you start to treat diabetes? When do you start to treat degeneration? You don't treat it when it occurs, because it's been occurring for a long time. You prevent it all the time.
Yeah.
That's for everybody. So that's how we age gracefully, we look better, feel better, and be better actively and proactively all the time. So it's, like I said, pain goes away. So the people who usually come to it first are like, I need help, are people with pain. So that's a localized chronic inflammation somewhere, either back pain or arthritis pain or multiple sclerosis and all these chronic painful fibromyalgias, all these, again, extremely common and only increasing in numbers. People are fatigued and in pain all the time, whether it's all the muscles, all the joints, all the body parts, or just some of them. Same thing. I've had my prolapse discs in my back as well. And it's debilitating. And we're talking about 14-year-olds and 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 70, 80-year-olds. This is across the board. Those are the first people that notice an immediate benefit from the first session, and then they get better and better and better with photobiomodulation. Because it's reducing that whole activity of inflammation that's thereby causing the pain and activating the cells to regenerate. So they start to get better movement. They start to feel better. They start to wake up. People with Alzheimer's and dementias, tell me about that curve. Do we need to go there? So all dementias, Alzheimer's is just one type of dementia, but all types of dementias are going like this in younger and younger people. Now we're talking
that
50s.
Everybody's going to want to put in their home.
It used to be old man or old woman disease. 50s, even 40s now, dementias are like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, let's talk about these curves, guys.
Yes.
And are they treatable diseases with medications? No, because they're not lack of medications. They're lack of ability to balance back, the lack of ability of the body to heal and regenerate. So light activates that directly. Doesn't replace supplements, doesn't replace the food, doesn't replace you reducing your toxicity, but it activates all that. It's like literally turning the light switch on.
Yeah,
literally. I can't describe any more literal word than that.
Yeah.
So mitochondria activation, blood flow, control and modulate that oxidation, stress, and all these things. So pain starts to go down, function starts to improve, healing. What you see outside is skin. So the red and near infrared light, definitely repeat exposure, which is why the beauty therapists have it. So every time you go and they put the red light on, that's fine, but not blue and green every time. It's only if you have a condition. Because every time they're doing that, the collagen, which is all the protein that makes up our skin and our skin integrity, basically, is all collagen made by cells and broken down by cells, collagenase and all these things. So it's constantly being made and stored and made and restored. That's the very first thing that you visually see after 3, 4, 5 sessions with any kind of good red light therapy, is your skin start to tighten out and look better. Like, oh, what is that? Because that's very visible.
It's great. Now, and it's actually quite, it's something that draws people to it, and then they go on to get the deeper, more holistic benefits. So I guess either you're drawn to it photobiomodulation for pain,
aesthetics, for pain, or aesthetics,
whichever way you're going to start to move towards a holistic overall well-being, and kind of knock one with the other, depending on where you come at it from. It's a really, really exciting tool to have and to be able to use, and I'm so excited for this lockdown to lift so I can come back and visit your pod.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So every day people should have it at home, like I say, and do part of the body or whatever, and that's all good. The beauty of the Noble Floor is, and the uniqueness of the Noble Floor is, it's the world's first full body pod that is scientifically designed and tested and everything else to deliver predictable. So it's predictable, repeatable, comfortable, correct dosage for the whole body to be exposed from head to toe, because you go in there naked except for no underwear in a private room, of course, as you know, and your whole body gets exposed from above and below in a concentric manner. It's not a flat pod. The light always tries to go like this, unless it's a laser. Light goes like that, so that's why it's not flat. It's curved, so the light, as it's going like this, it's actually being forced to come back at you above and below. That concentricity and focus of that beautiful healing light, which is both red and infrared, there's 2 types of light in there at the same time, applied to your whole body, head to toe, over 15 minutes, other than relaxing you, because you're relaxing and meditating there in that pod. There's nothing else to do, just to relax and breathe. I call it light enhanced meditation.
20 minutes, just lie there in the middle of the day, not doing anything.
That's it. Amazing. I love it because it is. I call it light enhanced meditation. That's what I do. Inside, I just breathe. I focus on my breathing, and the light takes you away, basically. So that relaxing is very good. Instead of standing up for 20 minutes against a panel on the wall, which you will do if you're keen on it, but you'll do it for so long. Like, this is 20 minutes on this side, and I turn around for another 20 minutes. It's getting boring now, and so on and so forth. And how far are you, and how close are you? So with the panels at home, there's so many variables, and the time and the boredom and all these things can distract you from doing it, because you have got to do this repeatedly over a long period of time. You get benefit right now, but then you stop and you're degenerating again. So to be able to do it repeatedly and comfortably and predictably every time the same way, that's the key of this. The science is the same. There's no difference between photobiomodulation with the Noble Floor than another device or whatever, if they're all made nicely and properly. The science of the light is the same. Physics is physics and biology is biology. It's the application of it and replication of it, like I was saying. But yes, you can do it at home, and yes, it's good to do it again and again and again. If you're sick, it helps you get better. If you're healthy, it helps you become stronger. If you're old, it helps you look and feel younger, and we just keep on regenerating rather than degenerating, like we said.
Fantastic. That is so exciting. I'm so pleased to have had this chat with you, and I am looking forward to picking your brain off of this call for a bit of a list that I can post, and
Yes.
of different ways to be able to get this if you can't make it to Laser Life Care Center when we're able to move around freely.
Brand, yes.
Looking forward to that. So thank you so much for your chat today. Really appreciate it, and very grateful to have an amazing talk to you again. And
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emma. Always a pleasure.